Welcome, friends. Thank you for joining us in this study of chapter 5 of the wonderful book, The Great Controversy. Today, we will focus on the life of John Wycliffe, an extraordinary man of God. Except among the Waldenses, the Word of God had for ages been locked up in languages known only to the educated. But the time had come for the scriptures to be translated and given to people of different lands in their native languages. In the 14th century arose in England John Wycliffe, the morning star of the Reformation, who translated the Bible into English. He was a well-educated man of God, trained in the fields of scholastic philosophy, church canons, and civil law. His unique preparation made him stand out in the field of civil and religious liberty. Having experienced an emptiness that neither his higher studies nor the teachings of the church could fill, Wycliffe devoted himself to investigating the scriptures. In them, he found what he had previously sought in vain and gave himself to the service of Christ and resolved to proclaim the truths he had discovered. The more clearly he discerned the errors of the papacy, the more fervently he presented the teachings of the Bible. Therefore, the church would soon be filled with anger, as the clear gospel truths presented by the Reformer were joyfully embraced by the multitudes. In England, there was an abundance of religious people dedicated to begging, people who lived on charity and who earned their living at the expense of their services in favor of the Roman Church. They were known as the mendicant friars, and there were so many of them that the economy of England was affected by their activities. In addition to negatively influencing young people by setting an immoral example of how to make a living, these friars had permission from the Pope to hear confessions and offer absolutions. Criminals went to them and obtained pardons in exchange for a few coins. That's why the most horrendous immoralities abounded in the English society. However, Wycliffe began to write and publish pamphlets against the friars and began to direct the minds of the people towards biblical truths. Being the king's ambassador to the Netherlands for 2 years and interacting with other believers coming from other countries, such as France and Spain, the Reformer was exposed to other errors of the papacy he had not seen in England. He returned to England to reiterate his former teachings more openly and with greater passion than ever before, and to declare that covetousness, pride, and deceit were the gods of Rome. Soon the papal thunderbolts and flashes of lightning were thrown against Wycliffe. He was ordered to appeal before a papal court, but he was accompanied by so many people that the trial had to be suspended. Pope Gregory XI wanted the Reformer dead, but ironically, it was this aggressive pope who met his own death. As a result, two rival popes were chosen, claiming trustworthiness and demanding obedience. This power struggle weakened the papacy, and Wycliffe was able to rest for some time. In a pamphlet he published, The Schism of the Popes, he exhorted people to consider whether both priests were not telling the truth in condemning each other as antichrists. John Wycliffe, the Oxford professor, would set out on the greatest work of his life, the translation of the scriptures into the English language. Many and great were the obstacles he had to overcome to accomplish that work. But at the end, he achieved his goal. He delivered into the hands of the people a version of the Bible that they could read. He had enlightened England with a light that would never be extinguished. Time and time again, Rome wanted to silence the voice of Wycliffe, who was ordered to travel to the capital of the empire to be judged by a papal court. However, God's plans were different for the aging Reformer, who was called to rest without his enemies being able to do him any harm. The papists had failed in the attempt to harm Wycliffe during his lifetime, and their hatred could not be appeased as long as the Reformer's remains continued to rest in the peace of the grave. Therefore, by a decree of the Council of Constance, more than 40 years after Wycliffe's death, his bones were excavated from his graveyard and publicly burned, and the ashes thrown into a nearby stream. This chapter, dedicated to John Wycliffe, a great man of God, concludes with the following words. A divine hand was preparing the way for the great Reformation. A door was to be opened that no one was to be able to shut. Throughout history, the enemy of God wanted to close the doors that led to the truth, producing discord and conflict. But God always opened the doors of freedom. Today, thanks to courageous and loyal people of God, we can enter through those doors and enjoy His word and wisdom in our own language.